Welcome to the Comic Book Community 411. It's been a little bit since we've done a show, but we've got an excellent guest tonight. Exec Collects, formerly Wink Inc. Alex, thanks so much for joining.
Man, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. You got a nice intro there too. I think it was intense. So no, I really sincerely thank you for having me on. Really glad to be here.
Yeah, we were kind of talking backstage. It was in a recent video a couple weeks ago. You mentioned, hey, if anybody would like to have me on or do something together, and so I reached out. I have done this interview show for a while. I kind of took a break during last year when we did the Comic Book Community Awards, and then kind of wanted to kind of get back into it this year. And when I saw your video, I said, all right, this sounds like an excellent first guest to kick it back off. So
Oh, I really appreciate that, man. I'm really it's awesome what you do with the awards. We were talking about it, and I just man, how you manage the scope of that is incredible, and it's just a really great gesture for everybody.
yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, I think, like I said, I mean, I think that's the biggest, uh, the positive, being able to give back and see people, get excited about being nominated and winning and things like that. So just a way to be able to give back to the community. So, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
before we get into the questions, why don't you tell everybody who, if they don't know you for some reason, a little bit about yourself and your channel?
No, sure. Yeah, I was formerly Wink Inc. W1NKINC. So still use that name to some extent. You can see it behind me here, but decided to rebrand to Exec Collects. That's my YouTube channel, Instagram, whatnot, if you're so inclined. If not, totally understandable. But I wanted to. I started with mostly comic book, or really honestly multiple unboxings, different unboxings, autographs, subscription boxes. Then gravitated toward comics, which we'll get into that in a little bit as to why, because it's always been a part of my life. And now I'm sort of getting into a little bit more of diversified collectibles, but still all comics as far as long form content goes. And as far as the YouTube shorts go, I kind of show a little bit of everything I collect. That's kind of the path I'm on right now as I kind of integrate other collectibles in there, but unboxings, talking videos, vlogs, a little bit of everything for everybody. So yeah, check
Yeah,
it
no,
out.
definitely very, very informative, right? I find your long form videos, and it's that you're having a conversation, you're providing some information, and asking the community for some feedback. I find them, since you've been back, I found your videos really, the talking videos really well done. And right, who doesn't love an unboxing or see what I picked up?
Right.
But
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. They're a little daunting because like, I'm very tactful in the way that I approach sort of the talking videos, because I don't want to lean too hard into one thing or make it a dramatic type video. I want it to be more of an informative, educational, or just even a perspective driven video where everybody's opinion counts. So I'm very cognizant of that, or at least I try to be. So they're a work in progress, that's for sure.
all right, good. Well, let me check in with the chat real quick before we jump into the questions for you. The Crucis is here. Appreciate you being here. Larry's here. Green Machine. Wellbore, all the way from Canada, joining us.
Nice.
Frog Brawler's here. Got Collecting with Durs. Mr. DJ Lynx is here. Now, I think I mentioned to this backstage that I think the first time I discovered your channel was somebody was doing an unboxing of one of your mystery boxes. And I'm pretty sure it was DJ Lynx.
It might have been. Yeah, DJ, he's been a tremendous friend to me. Man, somebody I've really had the pleasure of getting to know. And man, I think I'll actually be in the mix next week, next Friday. So
Oh,
looking
nice.
forward to it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. DJ and I we have been at cons together, but have never actually met. So we're going to Heroes Con this year in June. So hopefully we'll actually be able to shake hands. It's been like two or three different cons: New York Comic Con, Terrific Con, a few things, and we just kind of like never never had the chance to meet up. So
Nice. Yeah, don't let him big time you again. You just gotta track him down there.
Steve is here, Gene is here. Good evening, Ryan's here. Appreciate everybody coming out. Manny is here. Trev, aggressively relaxing. Scott Vaughn, S. Vaughn, who's a fellow in Tennessee as well, in Chattanooga,
Nice.
I believe. Yeah.
Sweet.
So, all right. So, why don't we get into the first question? So, the first question is, how did you get into collecting?
Man, this is oddly specific, because I remember it so vividly, and these are two of my favorite characters to this day. It was at a store called the Dairy Mart, which was just a convenience store. Of course, you had the racks of comic books, and I saw Wolverine issue 138 in the 90s. That is Wolvie versus Galactus. It is an iconic cover to me anyway, where it's got Galactus's big head and Wolverine's just kind of squaring off against him. I saw that, and I don't know why it grabbed my attention as a kid, but that was it. And then what really solidified it was later with Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale, the Long Halloween, the Batman run, the Hush, all that stuff they'd done, the trade paperbacks that had come out. Reading those, picking those up in a bookstore, and that was kind of the game changer for me. I mean, it was over. I was buying, Uncanny X-Men at the time, mostly all Marvel, but that was kind of some of the DC I'd gotten into as well. But that Wolverine 138 was kind of what started it. The animated series, because it kind of it was kind of in that tandem with the X-Men animated series. So yeah, I
And
love.
did you do you still have those books that you collected way back when?
No, not the initial one, but I have repurchased them since then. Yeah, I don't know who knows what happened to the originals, but yeah, I've
So,
got them again for sure.
all right, nice. And so have you ever had a break from collecting, or have you collected, since that first, since that first cover? Have you continued to collect? Because typically people take a break because
Oh,
of life and things like that. So,
yeah, 100%. I've taken multiple breaks from collecting. I mean, many, many times, sometimes multi-year breaks before it kind of just always pulls you back in, as you know. I mean, you go through those seasons of life and it always kind of seems to always never go away.
yeah, you find it comes back around at some point, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, and that's how it's done it to me, and I think this time for me, since I started YouTube, I think it's kind of here to stay. Even if I'm not on YouTube, I never did stop collecting. I think as you get better positioned in life and you kind of take care of things in life, and you're like, wow, you kind of have that hobby that you gravitate toward from childhood or whatever, and it just becomes a little bit more permanent, I think. And I like, for me, even if you slow down, you're always looking, you're always thinking about it, or it's always in the back of your mind. So I'll always probably be in it from here on out in some
Thanks for
capacity.
joining
Yeah,
the
right. And there's new books every Wednesday, every Tuesday and Wednesday. So there's always something to go chase and pick up, right?
That's right. That's right. So no,
Yeah.
I'm always looking. That's for sure.
So how did you make the leap to then starting a YouTube channel? What prompted you to say, all right, now I want to go on YouTube and start talking about comic books or collectibles?
Yeah, interestingly enough, I've always wanted to do it in a way, but it's funny. I never really watched a lot of YouTube until I got on it. And then when I first, for some reason, got watched some YouTube, and I was like, oh man, this is something I really want to do, because I really like motivating and public speaking in a lot of ways. And I thought this was a really good way to sort of just interact with a lot of people. It really wasn't a pandemic thing for me like it was for many others that sort of started in that time frame. It was more of like I just stumbled upon it and then just realized I wanted to be a part of it, and just kind of went from there. And I really like what it's done for me from a public speaking standpoint and all of that other stuff. Like at the company I was at, I was kind of that guy that they would pull up, at an upper management meeting. I'm the guy that kicks it off with some kind of fiery speech, getting everybody going, and I've always kind of been that character, so to speak. And I thought it would be really cool to bring it to YouTube, just from watching like Franchise Kicks. And then I also, at the time when I started, while I liked comic books, I didn't know a whole lot about them at all, and I thought it would be really cool to kind of document that journey of somebody in that discovery phase of the hobby of finding all kinds of different things, and then you start interacting with people that are into the system, or into comic books, and they start suggesting things, and it was really cool what it blossomed into. It went way beyond anything I could have ever imagined. Especially doing those weekly live streams. I mean, it was a lot. I mean, at that time, I was doing a video every day. It was
Oh wow.
literally,
Yeah,
I would film them in blocks, of course, but it was every day, every Friday, the live stream, or Sunday, I think. It was a lot. I kind of look back and think, how did I do that for the better part of a year? But yeah, it was awesome.
yeah, that's commitment there, because I know, I do 2 or 3 videos a week, and
Yeah.
sometimes you're just planning and trying to get ahead. and sometimes you're filming them the night before.
Oh, no
So
doubt. Yeah, no
yeah,
doubt. It can
yeah,
it's daunting. There's no doubt about it.
huh. Okay. Um, there was something else I had it in my mind and I lost it about
I
um,
filibustered you there, huh?
about about YouTube. I'm sure it'll come back.
Yeah.
Um, how about a character, right? I know you focus sometimes a little bit on speculation and values of books, but if you had creative control of a character or a movie or a franchise, if you could do something different, reboot a character, who what would you tackle?
That's funny. This will be an unpopular opinion, and I'm completely biased when it comes to this. And I realize that I'm in the minority when I say this, but to me, the one thing I would love to see, and it doesn't necessarily mean a reboot, even if it was in tandem with another universe, I want to see a trilogy of Batfleck, Ben Affleck as Batman. I want to see it. I don't necessarily mean I want Snyder to do it or anything like that, but I
Right,
want to
right.
see that arc. I just to me, I love that Batman on screen. Ben Affleck as Batman. I never thought I'd hear myself say it. It to me, it's almost like Heath Ledger as Joker until you see it happen, and you're like, wow,
Right, right.
I mean, he killed it. And Ben Affleck definitely is no Heath Ledger when it comes to that acting spectrum that Heath Ledger was on. I mean, it was just a whole nother level. But
Oh, sure.
I feel like what Ben Affleck brings to that character, really taking that role seriously from a physical standpoint. Man, the armored suit Batman really just blew me away. I wanted to see that. I wish they could have fleshed that out with his own movies. So I know that's probably not the hot
Yeah,
opinion,
no,
but at least Trev's on Trev's on board, so that's good.
yeah.
Uh, yeah,
No, I thought he actually pulled off a pretty good Bruce Wayne as well,
that's
right?
right. He
Kind
had
of
that balance.
mentoring the Flash a little bit in the
Yes.
movie, and yeah, yeah,
I mean, I just loved what he brought to it and in that balance he struck. You're right, between Bruce Wayne and then looking like $1,000,000 in the suit. I mean, you know what I mean? I
right,
mean,
right.
just menacing. I would love to see that, and I would love to see it even now from like the older Bruce Wayne standpoint. Like I think it would be amazing to see. So, yeah, I know we'll never get it, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is what it is.
Well, I guess it's interesting, right? I mean, there has been some rumblings about maybe a Batman Beyond project at some point.
Yeah,
So, could we get an old, who would play that older Batman? Um,
good question.
the
Yeah,
older Bruce Wayne, right? So,
that's a good question.
yeah. So, okay, that's a pretty good answer.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, the next question is, what about something that you don't care for, whether it's in the comic book collecting side of things or the community, like something that that's a negative for you.
Yeah, yeah. To be fully transparent, since kind of being back, it's hard to not get sucked into the negative, right? I mean,
Mm,
it seems like there's been a lot of things, there's been a lot of controversies and things like that that have sort of reared their ugly heads. And I think for me, what really disappoints me more than anything is the gatekeeping side of this hobby. And I don't know where that really comes from. If it's like the old school collector versus the new school, or it's the speculator versus the reader, or whatever that is. I mean, there's a lot of different dynamics and levels of it, but the way that we go about correcting, or what we think is taking corrective action, is really comes from a place of bad, and it doesn't come from a place or a standpoint of education, and that's the part that I don't like. And when I say education, I don't mean that derogatory. I mean it more of like you present someone with different options, and whatever they take from that should be acceptable. If the speculator doesn't want to read every book, that's okay. We need the speculator. If the reader
right.
doesn't want to speculate, that's also okay, because we need the reader. In order for the ecosystem to flourish, we need all types. And I think that here lately, especially, we've kind of forgotten that. We've kind of lost our way a little bit. We used to say, I remember, I don't know who said this, and I forgive me for this, but it was only a few years ago, and I truly believe this in my heart of hearts. Was they said if the entire world would act like the comic book community acted, we would be absolutely incredible, because there was zero vitriol. I mean, like I just told you when we're backstage, like people from all different walks of life that I would have never in a million years interacted with, or even locked eyes with, for that matter, passing them in the street, and now some of them are my best friends. And I think we've lost a little bit of that magic here lately. And I'm not, no, it's not to say we don't need to root the bad people out, because there's definitely has to be accountability. But I just think that we spend a lot of time just absolutely destroying, tearing down, eviscerating people, and for nothing. We need to save that for the people that truly deserve it, instead of
Right.
fighting over the little things that don't really matter at the end of the day. I think that's the thing that really kind of gets to me more than anything. Sorry for the long form answer, but
No,
that's
no, that's
the best
good.
I can do. Yeah.
No, I mean, I definitely agree. I think, I think the idea is right. We're like-minded people because we like comic books. We like the characters. But yeah, sometimes we lose sight of it. We're focused on the CGC scandal, right? The big thing a couple of years ago was the C2E2, with the cover and acetate gate and all the different things, right? And so these things kind of pop up, and then they really draw everybody's attention for a while, and then and I read I was reading through, flipping through Instagram today, and I saw a comment, or the caption on the picture was the real comic book community, and I'm like, what is the like?
I know.
Who defines the real comic book community? Is that the guy who collects books, or the guy who specs or flips?
Right.
Like what's the definition of the real comic book community? I wish
And
somebody would
that's
explain that to me.
I don't know. I mean, I've seen a lot of that, and I mean, it's disappointing to say the least. I mean, it's one thing to chase a scammer out of here. That's totally okay to me. Like,
Sure.
okay, I
Oh
get it, but some of this other stuff, like that's a great example. Like, what is the real, who is the real comic book community? I mean, and that's why it's funny. I've been I don't use that word anymore, because I say just more of like an ecosystem, because it just kind of feels a little bit more like that now. Because we're drawing lines in the sand that really don't need to be drawn. And it's difficult. We have a lot of people that are really taking that standpoint and taking some of those things. Like the CGG scandal is a pretty bad one. I mean, that's something
oh
that I
yeah.
feel like should have unified us all to some extent. But then of course you have money involved. And when money's involved, that tends to change things quite a bit for what
Sure.
people may believe or may not believe. So and unfortunately, the world and society gets injected into everything, and it happened to get injected into hobbies and comics, and, and that's where that's where we're at now, at least for now, anyway. Hopefully, we can get back to it, but we'll see.
Yeah. No, I mean, you think you hear anybody's story telling about a family inheritance and the craziness that goes on with family members over money. As soon as money's involved, all bets are off, right?
Yeah,
People get crazy. So
that's true. Yeah, that's true, and that's the tough part about it. I mean, you're never gonna really be able to top that. You just can't. You just have to let it play out, and kind of hopefully there's something left after it does.
right. Right. Well, all right. So we made it through the four questions that I normally ask
Nice.
everybody, and so we're going to get into two random questions. One that that I've come up with, and
Yeah,
then I have a list of just 50 questions. I'm gonna have you pick a number. But two, if anybody in the chat has a question
yeah.
for Alex, just let us know.
Please.
But my question, and this is this is when I first, like I said, I think DJ Links introduced me to you through one of your mystery boxes.
Yeah.
But I remember watching your channel for the first time. He said, "Oh, I'm doing this Wink Ink box," and I remember it was a great. I don't know what the value was and all that, but it was a good box. And then I wandered over to your channel and started watching some of your channel, and I'm like, why is this guy yelling at me?
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
my first impression, and I'm like,
yeah.
where does he work where all the yelling goes on in the boardroom?
Yeah.
So was that your approach, like to kind of take it at that that high energy level when you first started doing videos?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, what I thought, because I wanted to be different, like because I watched Franchise Kicks and Clint does a tremendous job at what he does, but I was like, I have to break that norm somehow. So I was like, I need to kind of channel like an inner wrestling persona,
Okay.
maybe try to cut a promo, like I'm cutting a promo on a mic, like I'm Ric Flair, like I'm somebody like that has kind of that good rhetoric, that really solid rhetoric. Because I've always been able to speak very well and very quickly. I can adapt fast, and I kind of shoot from the hip on everything. Every video you see me do is one take. There is no multiple takes. There's no start and stop. I'll cut little snippets out when I remember to. but it's one take all the way through. And I thought, I'm gonna really rip the energy through to a whole nother level and see what that gets me. And it is. It's funny because I think most people like it, but there are some that do not like it at all. I am in an industry that is pretty fast paced, pretty intense in building materials.
Okay.
I mean, it's rapid fire all the time. A lot of different types. You'll interact with C-suite people that are the top of the ivory tower, so to speak, and you're interacting with felons and people that are look at a second chance. I mean, we've got a lot of good people like that, and I love that aspect of what I do because I get to interface with everybody, and man, it just makes you such a more well-rounded person to be able to interface with all different types. And just thoroughly love that part of it. But yeah, to answer your question, it was to just sort of break from the norm, and it was definitely intentional, no doubt.
But
Yeah,
now, since you've been back, because you took a break for a little while, stuck,
yeah.
you weren't doing videos, and now you're back. I've noticed that it's kind of more you're not that personality isn't coming through as much, right? It's more more conversation, trying to connect with the with the audience. So
Yeah, and I felt like it was time to sort of curb that a little bit, because I noticed that I kind of did plateau and hit a ceiling, and I wanted to try to break that ceiling by becoming maybe a little bit more diverse in the content offering. And I thought, ratcheting up that energy when you're trying to convey right now what I feel like the ecosystem needs, or what comic books needs, is a rational voice. Maybe not necessarily the guy that's just screaming at you and going crazy. Because now, interestingly enough, over the last couple of years, since Whatnot has come about, the hype guy is no longer a good guy. You're just a hype dog. You're just pushing something. You're just,
right, right.
it's like the sports card breakers. It's, that type of thing. So that hyped up energy is kind of reflected upon as negatively now.
That's a good point. Yeah,
The
yeah, that's
landscape
true.
changed, and I recognized that, and I was like, well, maybe I should curtail that a little bit, because that's not really what I do. And I don't want to push things like that. I like to have a great time, but I noticed that I could get caught in that stigma, and I didn't want to do that. And I thought, you know what, if I want to be a rational voice and present myself, so I need to curtail that back and be a little bit more real and raw and open to some extent. I'm like I said, I'm still working on that as far as the talk videos go, because I am a little bit guarded in them, because I have seen some negativity from them. Interestingly enough, it's funny. Some of the stuff even I put out, I'm getting some negative stuff back, and I'm like, geez,
Why?
people are
True. Just like
right.
negative comments.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It's people are just waiting for the next person to fail, or the next scandal, or
Right.
whatever they can find. So it's interesting. That's why I was like, wow, this landscape has shifted tremendously. Yeah.
Yeah, I think partly because there's been so much news about comic books, and certainly like when you get one of the big books, the AF-15 that goes to auction and sells for big money, or Superman, and people just, I think people outside of the hobby have the perception that like every comic book is worth $1 million, and I think they just
Yeah.
when they don't know enough, they just think like, oh, all the every book is worth $1 million, and everybody's just selling books and making all this kind of money. And I think it's just it's a bad perception because of the little bit that they hear about, maybe on the news about a big book selling or something like that.
No, you're right. You're right on with that, and not to mention, like, when you're in the YouTube space, you're doing what everybody else is doing, but unfortunately, you're doing it publicly. So like, I fell right into the stigma that everybody falls. Like, I try to have the hobby fund itself. So to everybody out there, I'm just another YouTuber selling comics,
Right.
selling something to his audience. And I'm like, well, it's not exactly like that, but I guess it kind of is. So you kind of fall into those stereotypes to some extent. And unfortunately, so many people have been burned that it has caused a lot of people to have their guard up, and for good reason in a lot of ways. So I'm pretty sympathetic to that. I'm like, wow, a lot of people have been burned and torched, and it just seems like every other day you're hearing about someone else that got scammed, or feels like they
Right.
did anyway. It's like, boy,
But it's that perception of people selling, collecting, and then selling books. I mean, I don't know many collectors that have every single book they've
yeah,
ever owned.
I
Right? I mean,
know, I know.
at some point you change. Maybe you
Yeah,
shift in what you're collecting, and maybe you sell off or you trade, or you end up winning. YouTube community, there's a lot of giveaways and whatnot. There's a lot of giveaways, so you may win a book that doesn't has no value to you, and so maybe you try to sell that so that you can pick up something that has that you want in your PC. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. I think we all buy and sell stuff all the time. So
Right.
it's interesting that people just focus on that from a comic book standpoint. It doesn't really make sense to me.
Well, it's just, again, it's because you're doing it publicly, and it's not, not to mention that if you are of even somewhat of a business mind, you're going to understand, and how your exposure on social media is going to help you be able to have exposure in selling your books as well. So you're almost always going to come to that conclusion. Almost like you said, you hit the nail on the head. Every collector is a seller at some point. It doesn't necessarily mean you're a flipper or whatever. Which I'm of the opinion everybody is at some point too. It just depends on, it's like if you see a book at a cheap enough price and it's worth more, even if it's not a comic book, you're still going to buy that good and maybe try to sell it.
Sure.
Especially if you're into collectibles, you're going to be like, oh man, I can maybe sell that for more and get something I actually want. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, I try to make sure, like when I do a mystery box, they're all over value. I try to make sure they're way over. I just don't want anybody to lose, and I want to at least maintain some credibility in that sense, at least, and just do it as right as I can.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think if you're going to put a mystery box out there, yeah, you need to make sure it's
Yeah.
of value or more, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't want anybody to ever lose. That's for sure. No, no way.
So okay. So our last question is going to, like I said, going to be totally random. So I'm going to ask you to give me a number 1 through 50, and wherever we land, that'll be the question.
All right. Let's do 39.
39. Oh, this is an interesting one. What do you want your legacy to be?
Wow. Man, that is. I'd be curious to know what all of the what else is on that list. My legacy.
Yeah, there's some layup ones, and then there's some tougher ones like
Yeah.
that one.
For me, it's actually very simple, and it's kind of the philosophy that I've always lived by, and it's been added to. Obviously, when you have a kid, that changes things quite a bit.
Sure.
So, it's to have my daughter. So I just want to. It's always been my mission. I want to affect as many people as I possibly can in a positive way. And I mean as many as humanly possible in a positive way, in an impactful way, in a way they would remember. And then I want to make sure that I can set my daughter up for whatever life has, to offer. And I want to set her up financially. I want to set her up personally. I want to make sure that she's taken care of well beyond me, and her children are as well. And I think those are really only two things I care about. I really don't necessarily care about me personally from a legacy standpoint, other than people maybe looking back fondly at something I was able to do to make them happy or change their life in a good way. But beyond that, I think that's just the two things. And it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think, as a parent, yeah, that's your focus. I mean, I know that for me, it's right. I just make sure that my kids are healthy and happy and, and enjoying life. Right. That's
That's it.
that's the goal. And how can I help? What can I do to help them along their way? So,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, that's that's all. If I can accomplish those two things, boy, I will be in a very, very good spot. So
yeah, yeah. No,
yeah.
definitely. I agree.
Yeah. What was
Um,
like number 9 on that list? Like, is it the same list every
let's
time,
see.
or
Yeah.
is it
Yeah. No, I mix them up every once in a while. I just
okay.
actually revamped.
Okay.
Well, see, now number 9 would be if you could share a meal with 4 individuals, living or dead, who would they be?
That is a tough one too. That's even worse than the leg. That's a hard
But
one. Boy.
there are some other ones in there. What
Yeah.
comic book community member would you not let watch your kids?
Yeah, that's easy. DJ Links is in the building. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so that's a smorgasbord right there of
Yeah,
questions.
yeah, yeah. There's some really random questions. So,
That's awesome. Okay,
um,
very
I
cool.
did. I think I did initially. I did a search on the internet of like, what questions could you ask to get to know somebody, and then
Oh,
the list is kind of morphed over the years. So, um, but
nice.
but yeah, no, that was a good. You answered it. Yeah, DJs.
Yeah, they're down there. It's good to see everybody, man. You got Taylor,
Yeah,
Glenn.
no, I appreciate the chat hanging out with us.
Yeah, Megan
I'm just
Shack,
double
man.
checking to make sure I didn't miss any questions. If anybody had any questions for you while we were So you mentioned it though too. So we're done with the formal questions, but you mentioned like with your shorts, and I know I've seen some of the shorts, and you've been doing some of the cards. You've been doing some of the what did you just do? Some of the models, right? Some from Marco Switch Comics.
Oh yeah, the Gundam, the
So
Gundam.
your shorts have been kind of like all over the place. So
Yeah.
as far as non-comic collectibles. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the other things that you're collecting besides comics?
Oh man, yeah, it's funny. Comics probably now represent the biggest part of what I collect, but retro video games are right there behind it. I mean, I have a massive retro video game collection. Huge. I mean, all different eras, spanning all different types. A lot of complete in box stuff. I'm finally just now starting to show that. I have a short coming out in a couple weeks, or no, a couple days actually, and I was finally able to figure out how to film them. I'm still messing with these things to where I can get the gameplay playing while I show what I actually have of the game.
Oh, okay,
So
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
it's rough. I'm figuring it out, but and this first one's not great because I didn't do the audio right, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, retro video games. I am hugely into trading card games. And when I mean like deep, I mean, I to be completely transparent, since there's not too many people here, I basically set up the Exec Collects website as a storefront more than anything, just to have distributor access, so I can stockpile sealed TCG product.
Okay.
So I'll bring in stuff that I have conviction for. I'll sit on it. I'll open some, of course, because I am a collector. I like Magic the Gathering. I like Pokemon cards. I like this new Star Wars TCG that came out. I've got Lorcana, um, Metazu. Believe it, I mean a little bit of everything. I mean, Force of Will. I mean, it gets deep. Dragon Ball. I've got a pretty substantial TCG collection from a sealed product standpoint, and of course, loose single cards that I open and just play. I like to play TCGs. It's been a long time since I've been able to do that other than online. But I also collect, wow, Hero Clicks. I have a massive Hero Clicks
Oh, well,
collection. If
okay.
you've ever bought anything from me on Whatnot, you're getting
Yeah,
them.
I've
I'm
seen. Yeah,
throwing
yeah.
Hero Clicks into those things if I can fit it in. I mean, you just look around the room. What else? I got statues. I've got. It's unreal how many different things I'm into. And the Gunpla I saw on Marco's
What was
channel,
it? The gun. Yeah.
yeah, the Gundam, and I was like, "Wait a minute, is he snapping those together?" Because I couldn't believe that, because I have Warhammer 40K. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. It's a miniature game, but you have to paint and then glue the models together. They're
Oh,
plastic,
okay. Yeah, yeah.
and I'm like, "These Gunpla pieces are painted already." Now you can paint them too. Some of them you can touch up paint and add different layers of paint to them. But I was like, "Holy cow, these are snapped together plastic pieces." And I was floored, and I like Gundam. I mean, I was like, "Wow, this is really cool." So I ended up buying some, and just thanks to Marco, just seeing it on somebody's YouTube channel. So yeah, it's I was like, "Man, this is
Yeah, no, I
awesome."
remember, building model kits back in the day, and my fingers being glued together because
Oh
of the,
yeah. Oh, I can't stand
airplane glue and the yeah.
I mean, I seriously took a class at the College of Art over here to paint models. It was
Oh,
like
really?
3
Yeah.
months. Yeah, because I was like, "I wanna paint these things. I want them to look right." I'm still not good at all, but yeah, I mean, it's so time consuming. I'll probably never do it again, but it's cool to have that big, Dark Angel for Warhammer 40K army on display. They display really cool. So
So
yeah,
Glenn says he collects foggy
foggy
cards.
cards. Yeah, so that's a funny
I
story.
don't even know what that is.
So I buy beyond trading cards. I'll buy like the Marvel releases. Like when they release a card set, a trading card set for Daredevil.
Right,
Well,
right.
for some reason, whenever in the Daredevil set, basically one booster box, you have you get one, you're guaranteed one autograph, one, character autograph from somebody that played a character on like the
A character.
Daredevil TV
Okay.
series. Well, I ended up pulling like 4 Foggies, and I hate
Oh, okay.
Foggy.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hated it. Out of everybody on that show, I couldn't stand Foggy. I mean, the worst. I was like, yeah. And so I kept like, I'd get them, and then I don't know. Somebody sent me one back, so Glenn, for some reason, whenever he buys something, I just throw them into people's packages, or sometimes it was by chance. He'd like buy something and he'd pull the card out of like a mystery thing. I was like, what the heck? So I don't know how many Glenn has, but was,
That's
I,
funny.
I just couldn't get it. But I did end up pulling an incredible. This I actually got this right here. This is what I
Yeah,
was
there's
looking
there's
for.
another YouTuber too who's doing trying to collect all of the Star Wars autographed
Oh my
cards
gosh,
too.
I can't even imagine doing that. But yeah, I ended
Oh
up
yeah,
getting
look at
Charlie
that.
Cox's
Yeah,
Daredevil, yeah, Defenders. That was the one I wanted, and I wanted the Punisher one, but I still
and
don't have it.
you kept getting the foggy ones.
Yeah, I kept getting foggy. I was like, "Golly, man." Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you? I mean, you know, I know you. You know, you have a full time job, you work, but do you ever see yourself trying to go full time? You know, in the collecting space, or
See,
no, just strictly hobby?
0 chance. The only time that I thought I could do that, what this is another maybe unpopular opinion, was when Whatnot first launched. I was one of the first probably 20 sellers on there, and I was very dialed in. Now, I never got the opportunity that others got, and I could do a whole show on the infrastructure of Whatnot and all. Probably a lot of stuff that they wouldn't want me to talk about, and and a lot of stuff people would probably be surprised to know. But I would say that that was the only time I ever fully considered it, was when I actually wanted to. I was like, man, I'm in a bad spot in my career right now. I'm so burnt out. I'm so tired of it. I was like, I want to work for Whatnot. I want to work for this startup company and not sell on Whatnot. I mean, work for them, you know.
Right, right,
And unfortunately, well, I should say, fortunately, that didn't work out. It was probably for the better. I actually talked about it in one of my YouTube videos a little bit. I touched on it. Um, I could see now that I would not have been a good fit in their management infrastructure at all, like in the least bit. But at the same time, that was the only time I kind of got really swept up in it. I met with a lot of indie publishers and kind of gotten close to them and their marketing teams. It was really kind of all sort of coming together to some extent, or at least I thought. It kind of turns out it really wasn't. It's just sort of what happens at conventions. Everybody gets swept up in it, and then everything, nothing really manifests after it. It just kind of is on to the next convention. So, but no, I can't see myself ever. I just don't know that the monetary potential is there for, unless you could just grow a mega online presence like a Cool Stuff Inc. or a mega retail store. I don't really know how you can monetize it unless you're a creator as well. I mean,
right,
if
right.
you're a top 3 on the social media space, like a Comic Tom, or if you write a comic that really takes off or something like that, which I could never do. I don't see how I could really monetize it to where I'm at in my career at this point.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that strikes me about Whatnot. Like the platform, it's an amazing platform
Yeah,
from a selling perspective,
yeah.
but you really have to. It takes time to build an audience. Like
Uh,
you can't, you can jump on there tonight, but if you don't, if you know, you're going to have five, maybe five, six people in an auction,
no doubt. Yeah.
watching you. So it really takes time, consistency to really build, build that audience on that platform. And obviously, some have done that and have had success, but it just doesn't happen overnight. So
What's interesting is it takes more than time, it takes capital. You've got to get the giveaway train rolling,
sure, right,
farm the followers, because that's all you can do now. And the problem with Whatnot right now is that they continue to remain agnostic to their bad reputation. And until
mm,
they get in there and take the same grassroots approach that they use to grow the platform, they need to take that same approach and fix it from a community. There's that word from a social media perspective. Until they get in and fix their reputation or the perception of their reputation. I mean, think about it. They were on national news for the Blake's Break scandal.
right,
It happened
right,
on their platform, and they have never even come out and so much as said a word about damage control, ownership, anything. Until they stop remaining agnostic to that,
yeah.
it's
They
fallen
need
off.
to address those things, right? Yeah, yeah,
They've got to tackle that, and especially as their competitors are getting better. Their competitors are getting much, much better, much faster, and they had a 2 to 3 year head start, and they have squandered that opportunity tremendously. And boy, they better recover quickly before someone else really gets the technology, because that's really all they have right now. They've got the tech,
right, right.
they've got the presentation, but man, once that gets replicated, which we know it will, they're going to be in some trouble. I think it's
Yeah,
going to.
well, you look at a platform like eBay, who obviously
Yeah,
has been around a long time and has the resources.
yeah.
They and I'm already seeing some of the bigger whatnot sellers talk about splitting time now between eBay Live
I've
and
noticed that.
whatnot.
It's
Yeah.
interesting too, like how that loyalty has shifted a little bit because now the eBay Live is kind of allowing more people on. They're becoming a little less selective, and they're at that same incubation point that Whatnot was at. And it'll be interesting to see in 6 months. You'll be shocked when they are basically are going to be onboarding. People are going to be going live at all hours of the day on top
Right.
of each other. It's getting to that point. But eBay, I think, has set back and quietly watched Whatnot. I think they've seen what they've done right and they've seen what they've done wrong. And I think that they are well poised to take that market share. But we'll see. Who knows? I'm just one guy. I don't know.
Right. I
I
mean, because so eBay certainly has its its negative
sure.
sides too, right?
Yeah.
People feed Bay, and they side often with sellers and don't protect buyers, and so there's all that kind of negative connotation out there as well for eBay. So
No
it'll be
doubt.
interesting.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll have to tackle that as well. But yeah, they definitely won't be as up against that hill as Whatnot was because Whatnot's came down in a crushing fashion. eBay's dealt with that sort of adversity for many years now.
Yeah, Taylor says, somebody with better customer service will end up crushing Whatnot, right?
That's exactly right. I mean, once they can figure out how to develop the app to the same letter, which they will, like you said, there's not proprietary. It's going to be problem. Yeah, it's going to be problematic for them.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Whatnot really started right with Funkos, right? Funko
That
Pops.
is correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
their gimmick was that you could buy and sell Funko Pops from a protected standpoint because they would verify them manually. So you would sell a pop, you would ship it to Whatnot, they would make sure it was real, and then ship it to the person. And then it went a completely different direction from there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I mean, you can buy
Yeah, now
pretty
you
much
can buy
anything.
fake, yeah, now you can buy fake Funko Pops and everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They're not gatekeeping anymore, right?
No, they're
Yeah.
not gatekeeping
Yeah.
anymore. No, absolutely not.
So, Alex, I think you've answered all of my questions. Anything else that you want to mention tonight before we wrap up?
Man, no. I'm just sincerely appreciative of coming on and talking to you and everything that you do. Man, I'm just really, really grateful to have people like you in the space, man. And thank you so much for bringing me on. I'm just very happy to be here. Still plodding along on the channel, still trying to find my way, and just glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Like I said, I saw you. You mentioned it in one of your videos recently. So I reached out and I was happy that you wanted to come on and chat. So and
Yeah,
like I said, your return. I think I mentioned it in one of my videos because I actually bought a few books from you from Whatnot. There
you
was a couple
did. Yeah,
Spider-Man books,
you
and
did.
I did
Yeah,
an opening of the books, and I said it's like he's like a kinder, gentler Exec Collects now. He's like a little toned down, so definitely noticeable. Um, and like you said, but your reasoning behind that is kind of spot on, right? Because of the negative, connotation with some of the, high energy guys these days, right? So certainly from the
sure.
Whatnot
Yeah,
perspective. So yeah.
no
So
doubt.
yeah, just checking in. But yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on. So I have links down in the description. If you're not familiar with Exec Collects, formerly Wink Inc., but you can find them on YouTube and on Instagram. And check out the shorts because you'll be interested to see all of the other things that he collects besides
Yeah,
comic books. So, but
no doubt.
appreciate you coming on, and thanks for the chat. Everybody hanging out with us in the chat tonight.
Yeah.
And we'll see you. We'll see everybody soon. I'm looking for the live stream clip, my last clip to get out of here. What'd I do with it? Where is it? There it is.